week, we step into the time-travelling garden of Plants vs. Zombies 2, head out to the Seven Seas with a look at Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and Jimmy the Geek chats with Tom Taylor, the Aussie writer behind the Injustice comic series. This is Player Attack. But first, the latest gaming news, and the inevitable has happened. Blizzard has introduced microtransactions into World of Warcraft, rolling the changes onto the public test realm as part of the version 5.4 update. This is the first stage of testing, which sees microtransactions and new items added to Asian regions only. If you're in the right place at the right time, you are now given the opportunity to spend real money to pick up lesser charms of good fortune, or perhaps an experience that will assist you with the leveling process. As Blizzard assesses player feedback, more items will be added and more regions opened up. At this stage, Blizzard is keeping quiet on its future plans for real money transactions, but analysts are wondering if this is the first step towards the world's largest MMO going free to play. And sticking with Blizzard for a little bit longer, Diablo 3 fans who are hoping to snag the game on PlayStation 4 this year have been disappointed with the news that it won't get here until 2014. The PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions of the Hack and Slash Classic are both headed to consoles in September this year, with fans anticipating the PlayStation 4 version to launch alongside the new console. However, Blizzard has other plans. Rather than simply shoveling the game from one platform to the other, the devs are going to take the time to make each game as relevant to each platform as possible. Now, if you were planning on picking up either a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One on launch day later this year, you'd better get in quick. Retailers around the world, particularly in the US, are reporting stock shortages, some going so far as to close pre-orders for both consoles. If you leave things much longer, you might just miss out. In other news, the United States government has officially recognised its first video game as a sport, and it's not StarCraft or StarCraft 2. Instead, League of Legends has been given the honour, putting the league's championship series on par with groups like the NHL, NBA and NFL. This means that pro gamers who are competing in the League of Legends Championship Series are eligible for US visas, just like more traditional athletes. There's some good news for Australia too, which bucks the trend of recent weeks. The revised version of State of Decay has been granted an R18 rating in Australia, paving the way for the Zombie Hunter to receive a local release on Xbox Live Arcade. Meanwhile, PopCap Games has chosen the land down under as a testing ground for the brand new game Plants vs. Zombies 2. This one was originally meant to land earlier this week, but has been officially delayed until later this summer. That is, the North American summer anyway. We will have more on Plants vs. Zombies 2 later in this episode of Player Attack. Saints Row 4 has had its fair share of controversy in recent weeks, but now we've got some good news for the game. While we're still waiting on further details about whether or not it'll be released in Australia, we can tell you that if it does, you will be treated to one heck of a voice acting cast. To start things off, there are a bunch of different options when choosing the voice of the president, that's you, including Nolan North, Troy Baker and Diane Michelle. The interesting bit comes when we look at who's behind the other characters. Terry Crews is Benjamin King, Natalie Lander is Kinsey Kensington, and Rob Van Dam steps up again for the Professor Genki minigames. Oh, and did we mention that Neil Patrick Harris is also in the game this time around? Keep an ear out for DJ Veteran Child. One of the trends we love about 2013 is how many of our old favourite games are finding new life on mobile platforms. Last week it was a new Prince of Persia, and this week it's the 20-year-old traffic simulator Transport Tycoon. Making this reboot even more exciting, original developer Chris Sawyer is still on board designing and directing the new mobile version, which boasts a revamped version of the old-school simulation code. This new Transport Tycoon has been carefully and lovingly revised for touchscreen platforms and is due out later this year for both iOS and Android. One game that's not coming to mobile devices, even though we'd love it to, is Scribblenauts Unmasked, the DC Comics-inspired version of Fifth Cell's Draw Your Own Adventure. The Scribblenauts series is well known for packing as much content as possible into each game, and Unmasked is no exception. The developers have let us know that you will be able to summon 15 different Supermen, each with different skills. You might be into Kal-El Superman, Red Sun Superman, or perhaps simply the long-haired man of tomorrow, but either way, you are pretty well covered with this one. And finally this week, if you ever wondered who cleans up the mess after one of those long, drawn-out firefights with bullets and blood and body parts scattered all over the place, we have the answer. You are on Viscera Cleanup Detail, a nifty little project that came out of a game jam hosted by indie studio Runestorm. You are a space station janitor armed with a mop and other cleaning essentials, and it's your job to get everything sparkling clean again. Viscera Cleanup Detail is currently available as a very early alpha prototype, but the developers want to know what you think about it. You can grab the game right now from Player Attack, and if you like it, go vote for it on Steam Greenlight. For more details and to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
PopCap isn't a company that just jumps into making sequels. We spent a couple years after PVZ1 just growing that game, actually putting it out on PC, putting it out on mobile devices, on consoles. So spending the first couple years just trying to figure out what's best for Plants vs. Zombies 1 on all of those different consoles. We talked to the fans and the press and everybody that wants to know, why did it take so long? It's like, well, it's taken the appropriate amount of time, but we really haven't been working on this game for 4 years. But early on, there were ideas around what would be good for PVZ2. And we spent a lot of time just prototyping and experimenting with different things that we could try before we kind of locked down on what we want to do with PVZ2. So it's about time because you're going on a crazy time travel adventure with Crazy Dave and his time machine Penny. And you start off trying to find his taco. He wants to eat his taco again, not just have another taco, but eat the same taco again. So he gets his time machine because of course Crazy Dave has a time machine. Yeah, and they intend to go back 5 minutes in time, but something goes awry and you end up in ancient Egypt. And then from there you go on this wacky adventure from ancient Egypt to the pirate seas to the Wild West. And then our intention is to just be rolling out new worlds over the months and years to come that allow the player to continue this adventure through time. The gameplay is very similar to the original in that you're on a lawn, you're on the grid, you're planting plants, fighting your zombies, and you're protecting your house and your brains. In that sense, it's the same gameplay you know and love from PVZ1. In PVZ2, we've really changed up the gameplay in a couple ways. First is with the introduction of plant food. And this is a power-up that gets dropped by certain zombies that you fight. And you can plant the plant food onto a plant and it supercharges it for a moment. So it takes your average pea shooter and turns it into its superpowered pea, for a few seconds that can obliterate a whole row of zombies. And you can use it on any other plant. And so we just hope that players spend time playing and experimenting with plant food and their interactions with the other plants. The other way is with on our touch devices. That we've created a way for the player to actually interact with the board itself with right now 3 touch power-ups. The first is a pinch, so you can actually invoke the power-up and pinch the heads off zombies. The second one is a flick. You can flick them into the air and move them over a few squares or flick them completely off the map. And then the third is you can tap and zap them and electrocute them and turn them into a little crispy pile of ash. There are a bunch of new zombies. Actually, I was trying to remember the exact number in my head. It's too high to count. Every world has a bunch of zombies. Of course, there's the ones that people know and love, the basic zombie, the conehead zombie, and the bucket zombie that have been reskinned and rethemed for every world. For example, in ancient Egypt, the zombies are more like mummies. But then we bring a whole host of new zombies, some that have similar gameplay mechanics to zombies you might have fought in PVZ1, but in totally new ways. There's also new plants, so just like the plants that you know and love, in PVZ1, the sunflower, the pea shooter, the walnut, things like that. Each new world introduces new plants. One is the lightning reed. He's one that you will encounter in the Wild West. He shoots electricity and it arcs across the zombies, and he's a fantastic counter to the chicken farmer who unleashes a whole bunch of chickens in an event that we call the chickening. And the chickens, run towards your plants and eat all your plants, but the lightning reed is a great way to fry them all. And then some of them turn into buckets of fried chicken. That was awesome.
The year is 1715, and outlaws rule the Caribbean seas. Here, you're at the helm of an adventure unlike any other, charting your own course through a treacherous world, where events are unpredictable and outcomes uncertain.
So Assassin's Creed 4, we're telling the story of the Pirate Republic. You know, in AC3 we told the American Revolution. We wanted to tell a version of an attempted republic that failed miserably. And you know, you have these lawless men and women that attempted to break away from their monarchs in Europe and to have freedom, but they boozed and they lost their money, and so it fails. And we're telling the story specifically of Edward Kenway, who's actually the grandfather to Connor from AC3. So Edward starts off the game as a pirate, a full-fledged pirate, very out for himself. He wants fame and glory, but he meets up with assassins and they begin to train him for their own needs. And then the story is really, you know, we love the story because it's this internal conflict. It's very different than we've done before, where Edward is trying to figure out who he is in life. You know, is he a pirate? Is he an assassin? Is he selfish or is he selfless? And in this conflict, it's what you go through in the story. So I mean, that's the narrative. The awesome part about the game is the Caribbean open world. You know, where our bread and butter is cities.
Yeah.
But we pushed ourselves out of our comfort zone. We decided to build this huge naval open world sandbox, tons of content, over 50 locations, 3 of them being cities. Lots of motivations, lots of stuff to do. Everything in this world has gameplay value, you know, and you travel through this world with a Jackdaw, which is your ship. It's your Starship Enterprise, you need to take care of it. And so you travel the world, you discover different locations so that you can keep upgrading the Jackdaw. What happened was, very early on with AC3, we did a lot of focus group testing on the naval combat. We saw that it was a hit, we saw that people loved it, so we knew we had something special. And aside from this, we've always wanted to do a pirate game for a long time. So, but doing in one game, land, natural environments like jungles, and giving props to the naval, I can't imagine what team can do this out there, but AC has such a solid foundation. AC3 pushed those, you know, naval and natural navigation that we felt, okay, we can do a pirate game, a full-fledged, bigger-than-life pirate game. So we actually took the naval at some point. AC3 had to finish, so we split from them, and we had to make the naval work in an open world. So we had to give it more weapons, more enemies, a deep progression system. All of this to supplement the fact that, you know, now the naval is a core to the experience.
There were many people last year who were expecting that AC3 was going to be the end. We'd been told not to expect anything else. After 2012, the world was going to end and everything all had to be wrapped up neatly. And then you guys come out this year with, oh yeah, by the way, pirates.
Well, so Desmond's story ended in the present day, but for sure the progression of the Assassins and Templars in the future is ongoing. So we pick up right after that, even though in the past we go back in time. In the present day, we're moving forward right after the end of AC3. So the narrative progresses. There is actually a bigger story arc that's being told, and we're progressing in that. And why pirates specifically? Well, in the narrative, Edward Kenway, he does something in his past that has a huge impact on the future of Templars and Assassins. And so in the present day, you're the hero, the player. We play in first person. So you've been hired by Abstergo Entertainment to research the life of this man. You don't know why. All you know is that Abstergo Entertainment is a nice company. You don't know the darker side of it, but you will as the story goes on. And you start realizing what Edward does that has this huge impact on the future story going forward.
So for anyone who was concerned, I know you guys copped an awful lot of backlash when the game was first announced because pirates didn't seem to fit in with Ezio and Altair and all of the previous games. It seemed like a pretty serious departure from what we've seen, but from what you're telling me, it's not really that much of a jump.
No, we get that question a lot. You know, why pirates? Does it fit with the brand? Does it fit with the Assassins? The thing is, Assassin's Creed is about being in certain periods of time. You know, we say history is our playground. So, you know, the Pirate Republic, it was a historic moment. You know, there was this good chunk of time that was in the Caribbean where this explosion happened. And so we're telling that story, and we're telling how the Templars and Assassins had their hands dirty in this. So we're telling an authentic story It's very credible. We're not going for the romanticized version of Pirates. We are telling the more authentic version, the gritty version. But we, of course, with the Assassin's twist. So how did the Templars mess with things? Aside from this, on the gameplay side of things, Pirates and Assassins, they're not that far off from each other. Pirates were outlaws, so they had to be stealthy. And we had historians that worked with us on weapons, on events, what actually happened. And they told us pirates tried to avoid everything because they didn't necessarily have weapons. Their lives were very precious, so they needed to be stealthy. Of course, they climb a lot of rigging, so that justifies our navigation abilities. And of course, they fought. So from a mechanic point of view, everything really fit. I think people, when they play this game, when they see the game, this concept of pirates and assassins doesn't work, I think it'll just completely disappear from their minds.
From your perspective as a developer working behind the scenes, is it challenging to make a game that fits with, as you say, all of the elements that we know and love from the Assassin's Creed franchise, but still make a game that's new and fresh and exciting and different to what we've seen before?
The easy part is that we have tons of stuff to work with. We have a very solid foundation to be able to build a historic game on. The difficult part was actually asking ourselves and being honest with ourselves, what are the features that are not working? What are the features that don't necessarily fit well? With AC4, honestly, if it doesn't fit, if it's not polished enough, we remove it from the game. We're just really passionate gamers. We started at this game with the goal of saying, we're gonna make this game for our fans. This is an homage to them. We're gonna give them what they love and give them some surprises.
Recent events have left our world in chaos. Millions died in one terrible moment. Friends, family, husbands, wives. Some survivors have stepped forward to pick up the pieces. Others have succumbed to corruption. And through it all, the perpetrators of that heinous crime are left.
When someone says to you, make Superman evil, what's the first thing that runs through your head?
I go and cry in a corner, and I sort of rock back and forth, clutching my knees, because Superman is my hero. And for me, I've always wanted to write Superman, and to be asked to write the prequel story that explains why he wants to tear out Batman's spleen is just horrible to me. So it's been a hard journey.
It's turned out pretty well, though, I would say.
It has. I know, it's selling gangbusters. It's the #1 selling digital comic in the world. But it's horrible. It's nasty. Don't read it. No, do read it. It's pretty good. I've read it. Yeah.
Who was, are you a big fan of DC? Was this like a dream project for you?
Yes. It's a bit of a nightmare project because of what I have to do to my heroes. But writing for DC is absolutely a dream. I've grown up, Superman is my ultimate hero. I've always wanted to write these guys, and Batman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern and Aquaman and The Flash, and it's incredible getting to write them.
What's your favorite Superman story?
Ooh, I don't know. I have no idea. The Superman, the first ever movie, I love. That is my movie. I've met Lois Lane today, who's here, Margot Kidder. I'm just hi, how are you, Lois? Sorry about what I did to you in Injustice. But that was my movie. As far as comics, Red Sun, Kingdom Come, All Stars, great. There's been fantastic Superman comics.
Tell me about The Deep.
The Deep is this thing right here. It's about a multi-ethnic family of underwater explorers who live on a submarine and their adventures. It's my joy, it's my love. It will put, it's kind of like, that moment when a newborn kitten first discovers a ball of, rainbow wool and starts playing with it joyfully with, a duckling? It's like that. Reading it's like that. Yeah, it's just feathery and rainbowy, knitty and beautiful. But basically, it is my book, and I love it, and it's been optioned by Technicolor. It's hopefully being turned into a 26-episode CG series.
How did you get into this?
Well, when a man and woman love each other very, very much. No, I was a multi-award-winning playwright. Which means that I had plays on 4 continents and made about $50. From that, I had a play adapted into a comic called The Example, and then I went straight from there onto Star Wars. You can see the obvious progression, yeah? Yeah.
Is there any franchise that you think, God, I wish I could write something for that?
Honestly, not really. I've done it. I'm writing DC. You know, I'd like to write Marvel one day, but I've written Star Wars, I've written Luke Skywalker and Superman, and they're my biggest heroes. I've just got a gig writing Earth 2 with Nicholas Scott, which is like the first DC book by 2 Australians. Like, Australia's been given their own universe to play with, and we'll try not to break it. And yeah, like, everything's just dream come true. And if anyone wants to hand me anything else and I've got time, then I'm always excited. I just get to play with all these toys that I grew up with playing, and now people pay me to play with them. And that's cool.
Is there anyone you want to see draw your work?
Yeah, but I've got Nicholas Scott at the moment, and she's incredible. Like, she's a total A-lister, and it's amazing to get to work with her.
Well, thank you very much. It's been wonderful talking to you. Where can we get The Deep?
The Deep, you can get it at gestaltcomics.com. You can get it from Madman Entertainment, all good comic stores, all good bookstores. Any bookstores that don't have it aren't good bookstores.
Hello to all you filthy human stink beasts. You're watching Player Attack. Enjoy it.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week is brought to you by the letter M. We are catching up with Avalanche Studios to discuss Mad Max, one of the surprise reveals of this year's E3, and then it's off to another realm to check out Murdered Soul Suspect, currently in development at Airtight Games and due out early next year. In the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, and if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.